I wanted to understand what is your idea of fitness, because I have my own like biases, I have my own understanding of fitness.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to break that down and also understand from an expert perspective on how does fitness sound to you.
Of course. So I think, again, it can be different for different people, but from also fitness being so well known in the industry now amongst everyone, and it's something that's just booming by the day, right? Everyone's suddenly like, oh, we want to get into fitness. I think fitness is something you can just classify as one, doing movement, two, doing movement to look after yourself.
Okay.
Right. And fitness could be different for everyone. Like you said, you have your own notions about it. I will have my own notions about it. Right. But any form of movement that you're doing that has some health benefits back to you, and you're not doing it with like that statement in mind that, oh, it's for health benefits, that should be secondary.
Okay.
Of course, the reason is that you're trying to look after yourself, right? But it could be just you going to the gym if you are interested in lifting weights. It could be you swimming, it could be you walking, it could be you taking into, say, XYZ sport. I know a lot of people doing like frisbee twice a week, or badminton, or tennis, or pickle paddle was like, a trend.
Yeah.
Anything that you can stay consistent with, also incorporate into your life, but also look forward to it.
Yeah.
I would say overall can come into fitness for a very layman person. If you want to dig deeper into it, then of course, like, I will say, yes, pickle paddle is not fitness. That's just an activity or a sport that you enjoy. You can classify fitness very like, subjectively, that you're doing A, strength training, B, endurance. And endurance could be anything like running, walking, swimming, cycling, like cardiovascular stuff, right? And how much ever like you dig into this research wise also, fitness is doing a combination of these bare minimum of like 150 minutes a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what every single human being should be doing, just to maintain a healthy, balanced lifestyle, and like for longevity purposes as well.
So fitness, I think, started with just gymming. अगर किसी को fitness बोलो, like people think कि अच्छा आप gym ही है. Now I think that things have changed. But you talked about pickle and paddle not being like a fitness replacement. It is just a sport that you like playing.
It is. It's just an activity. It's endurance. I would also put it in the category of it's social.
Okay.
Right? You can't say that that's the only thing you do. Of course, that's like you can put it in a way that it's a complementary activity that you do. And of course, I do also know of enough people who do only that.
Okay.
And like my answer to them is great, because I feel like you've gone from zero to at least doing something.
Yeah. Okay.
So that itself for me is a very big step, because like my purpose of everyone I work with is to take you from here to here. And that could mean anything. You could be already working out, but I want to elevate you. You could be couch potato, but I want you to be 1% better, right? So if you're at a zero and all you're doing is sitting on your ass all day, but now you started enjoying pickle paddle, great. Like, it's at least it's still using your entire body, little bit of cardio, little bit of upper body is happening, you're hitting the rackets around. It's just not enough. So I wouldn't classify it as overall fitness category that it's adequate amount. But yes, if you're going from a zero, I would say good starting point.
Yeah. Okay. So people talk about ki diet is your 70% of the game, fitness is your 30% of the game.
Absolutely.
So how do you classify that? Like, is it true? Is it not true?
I think 100% true. You can like change the percentages a little bit to like even say 60-40, but beyond that, I think the 70-30 stands very true. I think everything depends on what you put into your body.
Okay.
And by everything, I mean the way you're feeling, the way you perform from a day-to-day basis, like, how you wake up. Are you energetic? Are you sluggish? How you're performing throughout the day. It will depend on how you fueled yourself, which is like foods. For example, you're an office 9 to 5 goer, right? If you have a very heavy breakfast and go, you will probably just have like a very lazy, sluggish feeling. You have a very nourishing breakfast, you will be like up and ready and good to go. Same thing with lunch, very heavy lunch. And again, me saying very heavy, moderate is different for different people. So I'm not going to get into that.
Okay.
Of course, that's something I would work with people on, very individualistic approaches, right? But see, like a very heavy lunch, again, you'll probably just have an energy crash if you're working, because like you're also just not moving at that point,
Yeah.
right? How you perform at the gym as well, your energy levels depend on how much you've eaten and what you've eaten. For example, you're doing a workout an hour from now, more carbs to give you the energy to fuel through that workout. Post your workout, more protein. This is like what you've heard on the
Yeah,
internet
yeah,
as
yeah.
jargon as well.
Yeah.
Stands very true. Why you need the energy pre your session to push through, right?
Okay.
After the session, you need the protein for your body to build up what's broken as well.
Okay.
You need electrolytes throughout the day. People running. I'm having electrolytes mid my run and a lot post my run, because you're
Okay.
losing a lot of salt there. You have to replenish it to let your body recover well.
Okay.
And also how you consume this food is also how fast and how well you'll recover. So it's a full cycle.
Yeah.
Again, for example, you ate like a burger at night, right? Nothing wrong with it. I think very important, and everyone has their indulgent nights here and there. But you'll be like, oh, I feel a little bloated in the
Yeah.
morning the next day, or a little sluggish. You haven't put on weight, but it's very normal to feel that way also. Why? A, it's carb heavy. B, you probably slept straight after that. C, it's higher in sodium, right?
Okay.
So these things lead to water retention.
Yeah.
So the way you feel when you wake up is a little different, right?
Okay.
So that's why I think we say 70% is your diet, is because of the way your diet dictates how you function in every sphere of your day, that day and the next day.
Okay. So I guess we touched a lot of topics and I have so many questions around them, but we'll come back and we'll ask. I want to ask you about your fitness journey. Like, how did you primarily get into this? And you thought that this is something that I want to do and help people out.
Okay, very interesting. So, I will try to not like dig too deep into this, but also go a little
Yeah.
deep into it story wise. I actually was not into fitness at all as a kid, at least. I still remember I could not even run 100 meters. I would say I was a fairly chubby child.
Okay.
And this is like maybe when I was 7, 8 years old, my dad used to actively go for walks and jogs in the colony.
Okay.
One day, and I was in boarding school at this time. So during holidays, I think once he just, was like, come with me. I was like, okay, great. And because I would see him and see other people in the, society, colonies walk and run, got into it. Luckily, I was always a morning-ish person. So like that
Okay.
waking up problem
Was
wasn't
not there, yeah.
which is a big thing.
Yeah.
So I would go with him. That didn't last very long. I always played sport because growing up, my parents were very particular. Our kids have to do one sport, one co-curricular activity.
Okay.
So that was instilled in us. Of course, at that point, it was like, jana hai. You don't think about these things.
Yeah.
House help was there to take me at this particular time to this place. I used to do karate. So got into it that way. Then I went to boarding school. I was in Wallam. I had a cousin sister who was already in school, 2 years older to me.
Okay.
When you start school, it's compulsory for you to pick up one sport. So you can't do as many. One is compulsory. Of course, I didn't know what to do. And then because my cousin sister used to do karate, she dragged me into it. I was like, great. Started learning, playing, enjoyed it, did competitions, played at the district level, state level, and national level. This is like all while I was still in school. So I was like, working.
Yeah.
I'm doing well. Why not? So again, that habit of doing movement, I think came into me, but it wasn't conscious. It was just because it was part of your routine in some way or the other. I think towards class 11 and 12 is when you start getting a little conscious about these things, like
Yeah.
general fitness and all. That's when I got introduced a little more into being healthy.
Okay.
That's when I started running very casually, but I was like, I should do it. Got my school, and also class 12 is when I became karate captain of my school.
Oh.
So because I was a captain, I made a thing that, okay, we have to run every alternate day, in
Okay.
the fields. So that, I think, indirectly just kicked into my cycle. And again, like all this is in retrospection, right? At
Yeah.
that point, I know for a fact it wasn't out of any reason or cause or anything. I knew jack shit about fitness. So that's where it was, I think, instilled.
Okay.
Graduated from school, and I think that's a very scary spot. And like also a spot where I'm like trying to actively work upon, like, on the side is when a kid gets out of school and you go into the real world, you don't know what fitness is, because in school it's quote unquote compulsory, right? Either
Yeah.
your school is making you do it or your parents make you do some sport.
Yeah.
You're doing a sport. You don't know what fitness is.
Fitness is okay.
Which is like, what you asked, well, how
Yeah.
do you classify fitness? So for us that time, it was, oh, I go for basketball. Oh, I go for hockey. You don't know what fitness is. At that
Yeah.
point, it's part of your curriculum. You
Yeah.
have 2 hours allotted into your routine to do just this, right?
Yeah.
You don't know how to keep yourself fit after that. And that's when I was just like, oh, like, this is a very gray area. I went to college after that. Luckily, straight after 1 month, I was in Australia. And that's actually when I got into fitness. I got introduced to the concept. I think I became a little health conscious, body conscious as well, for sure. I don't think I was, like, I would say I was borderline toxic, health conscious, body conscious wise as well. Luckily, I educated myself in this space from the get-go to not do anything extreme. I did try extreme things, like, not gonna lie, but I also bounced out of it. Like, I
Okay.
tried the 1,000 calories, I tried doing excessive cardio, I tried everything for like some durations, but I was always a great observer. So I would just be like, not seeming too right. But that's the period where I got into fitness, essentially. And I think I had my first fair share of 2 years of yo-yoing everything just to
Okay.
like get thinner, or whatever you want to call it, right? It was just fitness, but figuring it out, but also I would say a little toxic. And
Okay.
that time there wasn't that much education around it either. People overseas also were really fit, or like Australia being Australia in the obese category. There was no in between. Luckily, my college fitness, like college gym, was one of the biggest in Sydney. So it wasn't just a college gym, it was a full city gym.
Okay.
We had like 2 swimming pools, Olympic swimming pool, insane amount of classes. That's how I got introduced to like even the gym, weight section, why you should lift. They made it very healthy actually, and there was a separate weightlifting session just for women.
Okay.
So, you're away from the gym bros essentially, and whoever's feeling a little intimidated, you have that safe space of figuring out your thing just in a female space
Yeah.
area. And I still know for the first 2.5 years, I was only there.
Okay.
It was the same equipment, everything same, still heavy weights there, but it was only cornered out for women to work out.
Okay.
Which I think helped a lot because, it keeps you away from that fear of, oh, what will that person
Yeah.
say, or judgment or whatever. Like now in hindsight, of course, I don't care, but at that point you did. So I think all those were learning curves. And then I got introduced to group classes by this very big company called Les Mills. I would go for their classes, and they had a combination of things. Like they had a lot of boxing, they had a lot of strength training classes, they had cardio aerobic sessions, and there was like a full schedule for every day. And I would just go for those classes. And I think that was my switching point of I want to do this full time
Okay.
in my head, because I enjoyed those classes so much. Like I would look forward to it. I started seeing results. I started understanding, general fitness, because again, they were coaches there. So they were there to guide you and like
Yeah.
explain things middle of class, before, ending, everything. And I think the moment I started seeing physical changes in myself is when I got more confident. I started telling people, come with me, do this. I also started making a lot of friends at the gym,
Okay.
which again boosts your confidence because you're meeting people, you're meeting like-minded people in a very safe space, and you have some common interest right there,
Yeah.
right? You're both at the gym at the same time and you're talking, means one thing
Yeah.
between both of you, the vibes,
Yeah.
essentially. And I think the classes was my switching point, because I still remember I was doing, I think, a boxing class there, and I loved the 2 instructors who would do our boxing class. There were 2 females, and it was a very random thought. I was just like, one day I see myself on that stage coaching, and that was it.
Okay.
Never did anything about it because I was still in college. I think moved back to India and joined a gym near my house, and it was a very sad experience.
Yeah. Was it a
Just-
shock? Like I was going to ask, was it a shock? Yeah.
It was shocking, but also just a very sad experience. And like I think everyone listening will understand this because it still prevails a lot, right? It's very generic. You'll go to a gym, there are floor trainers here, and they'll just be like, "Ha, ma'am, cardio kar lo, 30 minutes treadmill." And I just like, no, because like the thing is, by this point, I was educated.
Yeah.
I knew what I should be doing, shouldn't be doing. Fine, I didn't have like major goals that I'm training for this or aesthetic goals at this point. Now it was, I want to be healthy, because I also was, internally breaking out of my unhealthy patterns of like, I used to skip breakfast and I used to fight with people at home and be like, I don't need breakfast. And, my grandmom getting angry at me. Now it's the opposite. I'm telling everyone you need 5 meals a day. But at that point, it was a lot of like internal healing I was doing from the unhealthy patterns I built up. But luckily, I was conscious of, I know I have to, get out of them. Gradually is fine, because also like, because I was in those toxic spaces, I know it's not easy to bounce out of it. Can't be like one fine day I'll up my calories.
Yeah.
Of course it doesn't happen. You have that little insecurity of, will I gain weight? And it's normal. So I think when I was in that stage of not being very happy with trainers, no one coaching you, with all that enthusiasm, no one guiding you in the right way, I was just like, there is something missing over here. And that knack for being in this industry came from college, right? It was just because, like I said, that the changes in me physically brought out the confidence in me also. And I was just like, dude, this is such a great feeling. And I would love for people to feel this way. And if I can help people feel this way, nothing like it.
Yeah.
Right? I think it was once I moved back then, I would still go to the gym very regularly. And there was one trainer who saw that knack in me. And he's like, you're really good at this. You still know your shit. Why don't you just study and see where it goes? He's like, exam hi dena hai, do the best. So I did the American certification. And he's like, you don't have to use it, but at least you'll know what to do. It's always going to be a benefit. I was like, you're right. Did it. I had a corporate job all this while along the side. And then, I was just like, dude, I enjoy this so much more. Randomly started Instagram one day. And at that point, Instagram wasn't toxic like it is now. There was nothing known as reels. There was nothing known as hashtags. There was nothing known as cover
It's
photo.
just a photo sharing site.
It was just a site. It was just an app. So I literally started with that. Started with like putting some random workouts on my terrace.
Okay.
And I was just like, it could be motivation, because I was following a couple of people and I was like, motivation, what else? Deep down, I knew I wanted to do something in this space. So once I got my certification, I tried talking to people at home about switching. And of course, it wasn't taken in the best of ways. Because India being India, fitness not a big thing. And this is also like 5 years ago, right? 6 years ago. I just like, screw it. Like I will still do what I want to do. Kept my job for a while. I got a couple of clients on the side just with that Instagram.
Okay.
Those couple of posts that I did, which like now I'm just like, oh, hideous, but they worked. It got its charm. So I started coaching online. Had like 3 clients, and I was also like, I wake up happier. I wake up looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Money was more, and it's something I wanted to do deep down. So just decided one fine day, went to office, put in my papers, did not tell anyone. I just sat at my desk, sent out that email, and then like looked up and stared at all my bosses in their cubicles just to see their reaction. And that was it. Like it was a very, take the plunge sort of thing. It wasn't planned. It was planned in the sense I knew I wanted to be in this space, full stop. How, when, what was not planned.
Okay.
And I think touch wood, it just worked in my favor day after day. COVID happened after that. So I think that was a big boom. Okay. Since then, we've, of course, leveled up, trained like hundreds of people, have a team now. I got into nutrition as well along the way. So got certified in that from America again. Launched my clothing line, launched an app, got into on-demand training. So, of course, did our, permutations, combinations in the space. But overall, it was all about, having fun workouts, realistic, that you can do with your time, like permitted time.
Yeah.
And workouts that keep you consistent. So it's not like a very boring, same split every day. Like that became the motive that, this is what I lacked. Guidance, what to do, and actually having fun at a gym. Now, how I deliver it is up to me and what the person wants. If they want a gym-based structure, great. Majority, I think now I would say is home-based, because time is precious.
Yeah.
In India, we're all stuck in traffic morning to night. So the least amount of time you can travel is like, a luxury.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it started, from like absolutely nothing to an idea to like me feeling better when I got fit.
Okay.
And I think now it's just evolving every 3 months. It was from strength to running to high rocks to I don't know what I'll do
Yeah.
next.
That is super. That is super. एक बार थोड़ा सा mic pass कर लो अपने पास. Just pull it closer to you. More closer, more closer, more closer, more closer, more closer. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So you talked about switching, and I am in the same space I told you
Yeah.
about it, right? So I can just hard relate to that. Like all of those things, I have so many questions about it, but I was like, no, this is something that I want to talk about. So yeah, I feel once you take that plunge, you actually care about it, and I am also waking up like so happy that this is something that I want to do, and I might be faced with hurdles, but I will face those hurdles with that happiness that I have
and
in me.
you'll tackle them stronger. Like
Yeah.
it's unlike you waking up for a corporate job that ये problem है कि client के साथ deal करना है, but you're just like, fuck it, I'll do it tomorrow because it's not your company.
Yeah.
Now this is your baby. You took the plunge to start it. You will do whatever it takes.
Yeah. And how do you think like this generation is evolving? In terms of obviously the corporate job, I think people are quitting left, right, center. There are
I
layoffs
agree.
happening, and they are going towards their dream. But do you think that is the right way to do it, or you should have some experience and then get into this? Because people are jumping here and there, left, right, center.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, see, honestly, if you asked me this question even a year or 2 years ago, I would say it's good to have some experience and then jump. Now, I would honestly say I don't think you need any experience to start anything. Because there's also, you're in a time of so much AI and, not like AI and things built on AI, or like just tools you have to be able to help you build better than what experience will give you.
Yeah.
Because experience is from a very corporate lens, right? What you learn on ground is very different, and not all corporate companies are giving you those skill sets on ground, because being corporate, there's a lot of hierarchy also.
Yeah.
But now that you have access to these tools, I feel like there's so much more you can learn on your own. There's so much you can monetize just on the side. And yes, it's a risky move to be in, or a risky play, because there's no fixed income coming.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's also what's making people do the चलो try कर लेते हैं, इतना पैसे आ जाएगा, great, works, you enjoy it, good. If you don't, you always know there's plan B, C, D, E also at this point, with so many options with what's available. So I don't think it's anything like, oh, you should get experience. Like now I'm just like, dude, if you have an idea and you know you have the talent to execute it, just execute. Like that is it. And if it works, it works. It doesn't work, you always know then तो यार corporate backup है ही ना कहीं apply करके थोड़ी देर नौकरी मिल ही जाएगी.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked about being in Australia, and now you're in India.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the difference of lifestyle and the diet that you see there, because I think when I was reading about America also, I think it's an obese country,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
But there are two extreme levels of it. Like when I see Instagram, either the person is completely obese or the person is ripped.
Very fit.
Yeah. So there's nothing in between that I see.
Yeah.
Right. So you've been there. So you can tell me like what is the difference between the diet that they have and the diet that we have as Indians, and what is the workout structure there?
Okay, very interesting, because it is true. Even when I was there, it's either you're fit, like I would put fit and healthy in the same boat.
Okay. Is there any difference though between being fit and between being healthy?
No, not really. I mean, it's just like, some people are extra fit because like that is their priority. Some are fit to be healthy, like on a general lifestyle basis.
Okay.
So one category, like that, the fit I mean is like, say people competing, or people who are coaches or whatever, or people who are super health conscious.
Yeah.
Like I want my abs, or I want like a leaner body.
8 hours of sleep or this and that. Yeah.
Like prioritizing your health. But people also prioritizing their health are in a healthy bracket.
Okay.
And then, yes, I think I saw my fair share of obesity as well, right? I would say, at least nutrition-wise, the biggest difference I saw firsthand, and this is like a very me example, is Indian food is A, big focus on carbs, and B, big focus on masalas. And like however snooty this sounds, till today I can't eat anything masala. So a lot of times even at home I'm making my own food or getting food made separately, because like even your basic rajma chawal, chana chawal, whatever sabji is so heavy on that garam masala, I can't take it.
Okay.
Way more heavy on the salt and stuff. So it's leading to your bloating or feeling a little uncomfortable or acidic. But I think that's also like just what Indian palates are like,
Yeah.
right? Like that is what we like and thrive on.
Yeah.
Whereas overseas, I wouldn't say food is bland, but Indians put it in the bland category because for us it's so different,
Yeah.
right? It's very off the shelf sort of thing, like your chicken and all packaged. Of course, you make it at home, but like you'll get grilled chicken in like packs of 2, frozen veggies and stuff like that. So it's not very heavy. It's more like, they'll put one sauce or dressing on top of it for the flavor. So that on itself just curbs down on how your gut is reacting to things.
Okay.
Carb heavy, I would say, is a very person to person in all countries.
Yeah.
India's carb heavy because we're like, say, rice and roti eating.
Yeah.
America and all are like America's bread eating,
Yeah.
Europe is pasta bread eating.
Yeah.
But again, the difference there, them being pasta bread eating, is they make their own bread. So it's very fresh.
Okay.
So there's no preservatives, which is why they don't actually gain weight. It's very clean ingredients.
Yeah.
We do a lot of packaged stuff,
Yeah.
which is for like, increasing your shelf life, but not the best for your gut in the long run. So I think biggest difference also from a India positive side is India is very lucky to have fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
I've traveled to a lot of other countries, lived in Australia. You do not get fresh vegetables. Everything is frozen.
Okay.
Like you get packets of frozen mixed veg, like, carrots, gajar,
Yeah.
matar in those little pouches, and you microwave for 90 seconds. That's the thing. Again, it's not unhealthy. That's what people live on.
Yeah.
And for them, rice is just staple, like, rice, veggies, grilled food. They are fortunate, for at least non-vegetarians, they're fortunate to have more meat options. For us,
Yeah.
it's very limited to like chicken, fish,
meat, red meat or something.
Yeah,
But
red
that's
meat
not
a
also
little bit,
healthy.
which is also
Yeah.
like not a lot of people have it.
Yeah.
You don't get like the best of it, I would
Yeah.
say, all the time. They are privileged that way. So I think nutritional, again, it's a very cultural difference, but someone who's been in both places can just pick on that. So like I personally am more of like a hybrid eater from there to here. Like I love my fresh veggies, but I can't do the masalas. Like my lunch is the same every day. It's dal chawar with whatever sabji is made at home. And like I'm okay with like the lauki, tori, tinda, everything.
Okay.
I love the fact that it's fresh.
Okay.
But I will make sure I'm getting my protein at night. And then my dinner is, grilled chicken, fish, whatever it is, with a side of stir fry, veggies. I'll do a pasta, I'll do millets, whatever.
Okay.
So like that's more of the Western touch, but like my Indian touch I need is like, my dal and sabji is there, and that's
staple.
fresh.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, like, I would want to ask you that we have established there's no cookie cutter approach. कि मैं ये लगाऊंगा and I'll get fit, I'll get lean, I'll have this, right?
Absolutely.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
But is there a substantial or a sustainable diet that you can tell for people who are working? Right? Let's say I am a corporate job goer. I have 9 to 5, 9 to 8, I would say. And then I also, work out a little bit here and there. I do my workout 1 hour in the night or in the morning. And if I want to have a sustainable diet, so is there something that you can...
Absolutely. I feel like 90% of the people I even work with client base wise, everyone falls under the same bracket, right?
Yeah.
So couple of things here. I am very heavy on like the one pot approach. And I think a lot of people on Instagram found it very relatable. Is a quick meals, super healthy. One pot approach is whatever you can cook in one pot is easy.
Okay.
So time efficient. For very basic example, stir fry rice, right? And it's just stir fry. It's not like fried. Just a bed of whatever veggies you like. For me, it was always like, say, seasonal zucchini, broccoli, carrots, peas, corn, whatever, stir fry it, throw in, say, 1 cup of rice and meat, like chicken. It takes literally 10 minutes to make because the veggies, you've boiled them pehle se.
Yeah.
Rice is probably pre-cooked. If not, just cook it. And that's something also you can bulk cook and keep. Meat, again, bulk cook and keep, right? It's just grilled chicken.
Yeah.
So I think my one pot approach is definitely something that I think quick to do. You don't have to spend hours cooking different dishes, and you can bulk cook this, right? Make a big pan. If you eat it today, have it tomorrow. I'm not saying have the same thing twice in a day.
Okay.
Second is whenever you're planning a meal, just plan it around your protein.
Okay.
because you're busy throughout the day, so you want to feel full. Because if you're not feeling full, is when you get snacky and you're going to start pecking on things
Yeah, that's
all
the
day.
4 p.m. time where you feel
Yeah,
like the most snacking. Yeah.
Exactly. 4 p.m. time. And I think that's also because, again, for us as Indians, our lunches are never protein centric, right? They're very dal roti sabji aa gayi.
Yeah.
Where the hell is your protein in that? And why I say protein again and again, not because it's jargon as it is on the internet now, it's also only because that's what is keeping you fuller for longer. So if you are full, you aren't going to have that 4 p.m. crash, right? It also does help with sugar cravings. And like this is tried, tested. I feel like the days I don't hit my protein goal is when I crave sugar more, like dessert more. Then I would say third is avoid any liquid calories. Like liquid is tea, coffee, great. Like just don't put your heaps of sugar. Just, office mein chai wale bhaiya aate hain, this much cup, which is this much sugar, and like 1 spoon of milk and 1 spoon of tea powder. That's just not it. So yeah, avoiding any liquid calories as well. Because again, you have to remember for this 9 to 5 or whatever, 9 to 8 corporate bracket, by default, your movement is lesser, right? So what you're putting in has to be very thought of. I'm not saying complicated, it's just thought of, and you can plan it very easily. If you're lucky, you have, your didi plan giving you tiffins and all from home, that's also fine. Have a full dabba of veggies, have a full dabba of dal, but like maybe 1 roti with it or half a bowl of rice with it. Like you can cut down on the carbs. So I think that on its own is what you would anyway do, right? Tiffin mein wohi aata hai ghar se sabke liye. All you're doing is making a little conscious adjustment. I'm not even saying shift. You're not shifting from A to B. You're just watching what...
That's what makes it sustainable also. Yeah.
It's sustainable because you have to keep in mind again, right? You are going to be sitting after that meal again.
Yeah.
And then after a month, you're going to complain like, oh, I've put on weight because I'm office jati hu and all that nonsense. That's not going to change. You're not going to quit your job. So you might as well do the little shift you can do while you're working.
Okay. And what about the dinner? Do you have like a full blown dinner, or do you just look out for soups and salads or something?
No, I don't do soup salad at all. I am a very full meals, all meals person. Also because I think if you don't have enough for dinner, you will find it harder to fall asleep because you're trying to sleep on an empty stomach. Okay. So I'm not saying soups are bad. A lot of people make soups at home. Like we do make soup at home also. And then they're very like nourishing. Like it'll be just proper chicken stock that we've taken out at home, throw in the veggies. So nothing wrong with, soup or salads if it's made well, I would say. Again, for me, focusing on centering my meal around protein is what is key, I would say. But that doesn't mean I don't eat carbs for dinner. I do. I reduce the portion of my carbs for dinner as compared to lunch because, again, lunch is your midday meal. You still have a day ahead of you. Whatever it is, you're working, your brain is occupied, you need the energy, right? Or you're walking around, you're gymming, whatever. People still have in like substantial amount of hours. Dinner... Essentially, after dinner, you're just probably going to chill for a bit, unwind, and then sleep, right? So I don't want it to be too heavy of a meal that I can't digest it, but I also don't do a very, very light meal because that does hinder your sleep. Like, you'll either fall asleep, like you can't fall asleep because you're hungry and your brain is just like actively thinking about the hunger. Like you're like, oh, should I just snack on this? So like that's when that one chocolate comes out or like a chota packet of chips is opened up. It's always that sweet spot post dinner. So I won't undereat, but I won't overdo it so that you don't want to wake up feeling extra full. Like I'm not going to come back home and like belt chole bhature, for example, too heavy to be sleeping on, because then you're going to honestly wake up burping the same food. So I would say sweet spot of balance, 50% protein, like 40 to 50%, I would say still. Give 20% to carbs, 30% to your veggies or fats or, a salad to keep it light. So protein and carbs is there regardless.
Okay. And you touched upon protein, and protein is the most talked about thing, I think, in the fitness industry. But I also want to touch it. So are you against protein powders in general, like whey proteins and all, or would you recommend them, like people do, substitute them, like agar meko meat nahi khana, I'll just take a 2 scoop of protein ek subah ek sham, ya fir I'll just snack on a protein bar or a protein snack or some sorts. I think personally, my own bias is that those are fads, like the protein bars and the protein snacks that you get. But I think whey protein is something that people can use, right?
Absolutely. So I'm a big advocate for protein supplements. I think they're great. Of course, have a good brand, researched, read the label for yourself. Whey is great. Plant proteins are great. Like I personally consume only plant proteins because I'm allergic to dairy.
Okay.
So that's the only reason. But I honestly try to switch all my clients into using some protein supplement, but never as a replacement.
Okay.
A protein shake is not a replacement for food. Whole food has its own component altogether. It has more benefits than just food, right? Any vegetable, any dal is more nourishing than just the shake.
Okay.
And number two, how much ever you try, unless you're like a bodybuilder, or the only thing you're doing in life is fitness, it's very hard for you to hit your adequate basic minimal protein requirement just from whole foods. Like you'll have to eat a lot of chicken or paneer or, tempeh, whatever. So biggest advocate of it as an addition into your diet, not as a replacement at all. And this is powders.
Okay.
When it comes to your bars and shakes and everything, I would say I'm not against it, but I'm not for it.
Okay.
So I'm at a sweet spot. I feel like I don't consume them every day and I don't make people consume it every day, but I tell people, keep it.
Okay.
Sometimes, you're traveling from place A to B, you feel a little snackish, have a bar. Probably better than having a packet of chips.
Yeah.
Number one, but also which bar you're having. So I personally only have 2 brands and that is it. Because I think what you also don't realize is that one bar is loaded with calories, loaded with sugar and fats and just XYZ number of things. So the key when you're buying a bar or any snack or any drink, which is like protein, whatever, is reading the ingredient list. And the easiest way I even tell my clients is because you don't know the terminology or how to, dissect a food label is just follow one rule. The least number of things on the ingredient list, the better the product.
Okay.
So 5-6 things, great. 20 things, horrible. Like all your XYZ emulsifiers, additives, colors, whatever, to increase shelf life, no. So not against it, I would say like, it's not bad. But that being said, I feel like there's also a lot of people working in this gray space now, especially in India, like brands coming up with healthier snacking, healthier alternatives or additives or, just products, which because they're doing it now, there's more knowledge about it for the brand and from the people founding it and a consumer.
Yeah.
So even the consumer wants healthier things and the brand who's making it is also more conscious and more educated around it. So they're very particular about, ingredients they're using and how they're making a product.
Okay. You talked about 2 brands that you use. So what are those?
I would not want to name them.
You don't want to name them. Okay, no worries. Okay, now coming back to so there are two kinds of people, I think. One is this corporate goers and second would be our parents, the generation of our parents, right? So I'm sure you might have clients from that age group also. So what do you recommend them? Because unka lifestyle and unka khane ka style is different from what we have, right?
Correct.
So what would you tell to them when you are giving them a diet or a workout?
Absolutely. So I think biggest like first-hand example for me was my mom.
Okay.
She started working out with me during COVID because we all had, a lot of free time. She enjoyed it. Also, she was the one for the longest amount of time, which is 4 years now, has given me shit for why you having protein powders. For them, it's like powder hai.
Yeah. Same, my mom also says this, ki, like she points at me and she's like, you don't need protein.
Yeah, ye
and
kya
I was like, Mom, aise nahi kaam karta hai. Like if I'm fat, it doesn't mean I have so much protein in me. Yeah.
Like protein isn't the problem, right? But for that generation, I think there's a lot of trigger points and maybe trigger is not the word, like it doesn't trigger them, it's just that, yeah, they are old now, right? By default, I'm just segmenting this in the 50 plus age bracket, 45, 50 plus, right? The awareness, information overload and all we are growing up with is very different from what they had. Like, I think you and I also, when we grew up, we've seen the phases of no internet, no data. Like, I remember going to one of these shops to recharging our phones also. Like, we didn't have this postpaid or 4G. There was none of that. There was no WhatsApp. There was text messages, 1 rupee a message and all. So we've been that generation seeing that shift, right? We are the generation who's getting into the AI, getting into having that sort of luxuries of getting information, podcasts, chatting with people, networking, everything. That generation had nothing, right? And so we can teach our parents, right? But our grandparents couldn't teach our parents. That's also one big difference, because what our grandparents grew up with was a very simplistic lifestyle, which probably is still the best because they are the healthiest. You know, because for them, there was no mode of transport. They walked from A to B. They grew their own khana. They fetched it out, or they were farming. So it was pure.
Okay.
And that's what they fed our parents / their kids. So they are of that generation, like the grandparent generation, right? Yeah. So that is what this parent generation has seen and come up with. And they've had to evolve a little bit, seeing their kids, which is us, getting into things, and now us trying to tell them what is good, what's not good, you should start doing this. So the way to deal with, I think, that segment is you have to A, be very, very patient. B, it's a compounding effect. And by what I mean with compounding effect here is you have to say the same thing at least 50 times to them for them to try to accept it. I'm not even saying that accept it. It's taken me 4 years. All right. And like, I've only been able to tackle my mom, not my dad, not my brother who's younger than me, and my grandmom actually. She's 90. She has a scoop of protein every day now.
Oh.
Like I told her, replace your 12 o'clock chai and you're going to have protein in dahi. Okay. And she does it. Like, she didn't like flavored. I made her try all brands flavored. She didn't like it. I literally got her unflavored protein. She puts like half a scoop of honey and her seeds. Okay. And I'm just like, have it. And like I've told the staff at home, that's what she gets. Okay. But why did she also start? Underlying reason was the doctor told her your bones are weak because you lacked protein. Okay. So the thing is, those generations, like parents and grandparents, because they lacked the education and awareness about it, life wasn't complicated for them only. And what they were eating was very clean. It wasn't adulterated. So they never had problems like we do. Like, you also will see, suddenly everyone's lactose intolerant now. Yeah. Right? Because what you're getting in the market is so adulterated. Yeah. For them, they probably all had their own cows or buffaloes or whatever, and they were milking the milk on their own. Yeah. So it was pure. All they had to do was milk it, boil it, and have it. Yeah. So because they were given such clean things, their lifestyle was, you know, way healthier. Like a very basic difference I even realize on how healthy it is from the root cause. Okay. However, this might be like TMI to talk about, but it's actually true. We guys are privileged that we go to fancier washrooms, right? But our grandparents, they actually had stronger gut systems and body strength, is because they used to sit Indian style to take a dump and pee. Yeah. That good for your hip flexors, actually better for your gut digestion. We are the ones who don't even know how to do that. Yeah. Like, you know, if you go out and there's a public bathroom, you're still walking towards the Western style. Yeah. It's very rare to see a person our generation, I would say, willingly going to an Indian style. Of course, it's still cleaner, but, you know, we're just spoiled, I would say. Yeah. So I think for them, it was a very simplicity lifestyle, full stop. They were healthy because everything was from the ground आया है और कुछ नहीं था. Yeah. Market में बहुत कम मिलता था. So adulteration was not an issue. Parents' generation is become a mixture, is a hybrid between what their parents gave them and what their kids are trying to feed into them. Right? We are the ones saying, oh, there's this also, come for this also. Like I told my mom, let's go for Pilates. And my mom just like, what the hell? I got her into start strength training again this year. The only way I did that was went and paid for the gym membership. Because otherwise she wouldn't do it. Yeah. Once you put money down on the table, then everyone goes and does it. Yeah. But it was so many years of working. So the way I tackle it is one thing at a time. And that's like a ground rule I've set. And I tell my friends also, I say, guys, just try to change one habit.
Okay.
Be it you want them to start working out, be it you want them to start going for walks. Like I tried the walking also at home with my fam. I was just like, just go half an hour. So sham ko, I got them to try different times. And they did it for some time, wasn't sustainable. Whatever it is, it was just that one thing that you change.
Okay.
So even with my clients, when they come to me and they want to be like, oh, healthier or whatever, I tell them to choose that. Let's focus on either incorporating exercise into your routine now, or let's focus on fixing your eating habits. I never do two together for that generation.
Okay.
Because for them, it's harder to be deceptive to so much change together.
Yeah.
And when you're putting anyone for that matter, even like younger people, when you put too much on the plate, they'll do nothing. Because it's information overload. It's just, confusion in the brain of ye bhi karna hai, ye bhi karna hai.
Yeah.
So I always say tackle it one thing at a time. So I get people to say start exercising. I'll be like, bas walk ke liye chale jao. 20 minutes, just go walk.
Yeah.
Call up a friend or call a friend to walk with you in your colony. As all of you have bloody neighbors, your friends, and then dono jao.
Yeah.
Then I got, say, one healthier habit into it. Like, stop having this at this point. Like, it was a big thing in my house to have fruit straight after the meal, like watermelons and melons. I was like, no, that's very acidic. Don't do it. Explain it to them. So I would, like, again, coming back to, you have to reiterate these things 50 times for them to understand. But be patient, explain it one thing at a time.
Okay. You talked about fruits, and I think that is a concept in I'm saying Punjabi household because I come from a Punjabi family. Ki khana khate you have a melon or a watermelon or a mango after that, right? So what is the correct time to have fruits?
I mean, have it midday, I would say. Like whenever you're a little snacky, great time to have it. Like some fruits you can do in the morning, like banana in the morning or apple in the morning, also great. All your melons can be like a mid-afternoon snack or a mid-evening snack. Again, not at night either, but definitely not straight after meals.
Yeah. And I think that is a good approach to have, like you told about, telling your parents to build that habit one by one, because I think the learning quadrant also goes down with age, right?
Of course.
Yeah, it's harder to tell them, it's harder to make them understand ki ye sahi hai, ye sahi nahi hai. And then they're also like, tumhe kya pata hai? So
like I got that for the longest time. Like, they'd be like, hum to theek thak bade ho gaye na. See, I'm 90 years old. I never had protein. Like slaps come back on their face because even the doctors are saying, no, your bones are weak because of protein.
Yeah.
But again, there was lack of education back then. There was nothing known as protein supplements. Supplements have probably come up in the last 10 years broadly, globally. In India, I would say even like the last 4-5 years, it's picked up.
And post-COVID also, I think.
Yeah, post-COVID.
So people realize that health is the key, so they're working
Absolutely.
on it. And also, what do you think about these brands? Like they are naming their products left, right, and center. Ki isme protein hai, isme protein hai, isme protein hai. Do you, I think I've asked this, but do you generally advise people to try those out? Matlab, everyone is naming ki isme protein hai, you should have it. This mein protein hai, you should have it.
Okay.
Because it's turned into a marketing gimmick.
It is. I was just going to say, so number one, it's a marketing gimmick, right? From a brand's perspective, they're trying to solve something which is like healthier snacking. Basically, the ones who are saying protein hai is basically the problem statement for them as a brand is you're moving from your fried murmuras or matthis or whatever that we've grown up with into something a little healthier, because you can't change a generational pattern of snacking on something, right? It's very few people who'll be receptive to, like, say our household, I will not snack, but as soon as you walk into my house, there are dabbas of namkeen lying everywhere. So it's that is what an Indian household is like, right? So what people are trying to do is at least make that switch into something a little healthier. So by throwing in protein, of course, A, it's a gimmick, B, again, try to make it a little better than what it currently is. Do I advocate it? Again, I'm very neutral. I would say if it's there, have like a handful of it. I don't say you have to have this every day.
Yeah, you don't have a plate full.
Yeah, it's not in my plans. It's not something I consume every day. But for example, like I have a packet of these quote unquote chips in the car with me all the time in my laptop bag, because sometimes I'm stuck in traffic, I get snacky. I will have it. But like, I'm very conscious of what I've picked out from the market.
Okay, so now I think we are eliminating the noise from the snacking industry, but now coming to the fitness industry, right?
Yeah.
Back, so there's a lot of noise with the trainers also, right? That मेरे को ये नहीं पता कि if this trainer is telling me something good. So I recently joined the gym and I went to the gym and उन्होंने वो रखा हुआ था that machine that does your
In-body machine,
yeah, the
yeah.
in-body machine. Everyone is keeping it for
Yeah.
कि हम ऐसे आपके
ये भी
tests कर
करते
देंगे, ये
हैं,
भी कर
हाँ.
देंगे. So they're like आपके में ये problem है, ये problem है, आपका water इतना ज़्यादा है, ये minerals में इतना problem है, ये सब he told me everything, and then he's like कि हम ऐसे ऐसे करेंगे, ये सब करेंगे, and in my head I am thinking कि भाई मैंने ना थोड़ा सा पढ़ रखा है, so some things that you are saying are not adding up for me.
Fair.
Right? That in body machine cannot be like कि ये मेरा whole truth of my body है. Like it can be some part of it. I understand you can calculate my BMI, you can calculate this and that, but not the exact amount of protein, the water, the minerals in that, right? So I think there's a scare that people with gyms are trying to sell, to get clients. So how can a person decide that if this trainer is what I'm going forward with is right or not?
Again, I think it's a very person to person thing, right? Like I go very base level when it comes to trainers, and like I don't even shy away from telling people who approach me that I don't think we're a good fit. Like I literally say, "आप please किसी और के पास चले जाओ."
Okay.
And that's because I think baseline, you just have to vibe. There has to be a very open, free dynamic between a trainer and a client.
Okay.
Once that's there, there is trust. And if you're vibing with the person, means you know, are in sync with their thought process or their methodology. Just building that ground is what's important, because also every trainer has a very different way of approaching things and doing things, right? And now also what's happened is there is definitely an information overload, which is why you also know things, right?
Yeah.
Like back in the day, again, you probably didn't, like a customer doesn't know anything, so they will blindly listen to the trainer.
Yep.
Now, because there is social media, there's internet, there's ChatGPT, for example, like which can give you like a full-fledged plan, there's information overload. You are also seeing people portray my before and afters, portray my full day of eating, my workouts. There's infinite information and examples that you say, I want to lead by this. So you might say something is not clicking, and if there's something that's not clicking, that's just not your trainer.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. You just have to find someone you vibe with completely.
Okay.
Like I can say people vibe with me from a training nutrition perspective is because I never go extremes.
Okay.
My diets are very ghar ka khana, and I have a very simple approach when I work with people when it comes to nutrition is I don't change your diet plan and I don't dictate what you eat. Essentially, you dictate what you eat.
Okay.
All right. My role is to make you fix your portions, and that's all I do.
Okay.
Because again, everyone coming for weight loss, fat loss, it boils down to calorie deficit. I think that one word we've overheard in the last year or two, right? But that is true. Anything coming to weight loss is about a deficit. I also know of nutritionists from back in the day who would give a very like bland, low-key dal diet, no carbs, only salad for lunches. One of my cousin sisters did that diet. Horrible, not sustainable, right? So my take on it is also I actually have my onboardings with people take full information about what they eat on a normal day, and I tell them to give me, say, 3 days.
Okay.
So I understand what their ghar ka khana is like, what the patterns are like, because again, if you're making them cook separately, it's not sustainable, right? Ghar pe aise nahi chalta. Jo ghar pe ban raha hai, wohi khaoge. So I understand their patterns. I understand what they like eating, dislike eating, what they crave, everything. And I include everything in the diet plan. But all I do is portion control it and make sure it fits their macros. So by portion controlling, you're also making sure it's fitting your macros. Like I would say, आपको Thai खाना है तो आप Thai curry खा लो. But side में XYZ, let's include. So you're not craving anything.
Okay.
But you're still eating everything that you like.
Okay, so you talked about ऐसे अगर आपको कुछ बाहर का खाना है तो आप खा सकते हो. So once we are going out, what could be some certain, let's say three pointers that I keep in mind if I'm going out for a, like a cafe or a restaurant to eat. What are 3 things that I can keep in mind to, eat healthier maybe?
Okay. I would say again, number one, and I know I say this a lot, protein focused dish is your main dish.
Okay.
All right. And again, to be realistic, everyone wants like a side of junk or fried or whatever. So for example, you love French fries. I would say still eat it, but don't have the entire thing on your own. Share it with your friends. Like order that for the table. Because you're going out, you will feel like eating it. And it's very stupid for me to say, oh, don't eat it when others are ordering it. Right. But make that your shareable dish. And then third would be just avoid the liquid calories.
Okay.
Like by that, I mean having just a Coke or, you know, a loaded milkshake, whatever. Like that is very easily avoidable.
Okay.
Feel like a soft drink, just have Diet Coke.
Do we need sugar? Like as a part of a diet, do we need sugar or not?
Yes.
Okay.
You can't go completely zero on sugar. You need sugar again for normal brain function, energy, everything. But by sugar, it doesn't have to be like chini sugar.
The chini sugar, yeah.
It can come through your whole foods also, like natural forms of sugar. I mean, like a lot of fruits have sugar, right? So you can go zero processed added sugar.
Yeah.
That's fine. And that's probably healthy. It's just like very hard, I think, for a lot of people to do.
Yeah, nowadays.
But you can go zero on that, but not zero on sweet or meetha as a category. Like dates is sugar, but dates is great.
Yeah.
You know, banana is great for your stomach. It's sugar.
Okay. So I think that is what it is, that you replace certain things, like you can cut out processed sugar and you can include these as a part of natural forms of sugar. Okay. And coming to, so I've heard a lot of people, and I've seen this with myself also, that once I'm starting to work out and I'm consistent with it, my mental health, you know, improves in a way.
Absolutely.
Right. So is there, you know, a linkage between that, or what is it?
I think there's definitely a linkage between it. And I think exercise is like the number one thing that helps you get out of any mental health rut.
Okay.
And that's just how your brain function is, right? For example, so it's like basically doing therapy and doing exercise is actually the same thing.
Okay.
Because it leads to a lot of self-awareness, right? When you're doing therapy, you're basically talking out your XYZ feelings to someone.
Yeah.
When you're exercising, you're still working on yourself. And then there's endorphins release, testosterone release, which bring out that emotion also. So one is more on your like DIY, and one is more you're doing it with an external person to take help with. But I think the feeling after, right? Because you've just sweat, you've just released out the toxins, that's where the mental health stigma comes in.
Yeah.
You feel lighter, you feel happier. Like I say, like, since you say you felt it, that is me. Like if I'm having a shit day for any reason, even if I go on a 20-minute walk, I come back feeling happier.
Yeah.
And it could literally be while I'm sitting in office, something has happened, I'm just pissed. I will go down and walk on the road samne for 20 minutes. And you come back, you know, a little more rejuvenated. So it's just something to do with movement, like, you know, on its own. It's like, it's recharging, I would say. And another thing is, the only time it's beneficial mental health wise is also when you don't approach exercise or movement for aesthetic goals. Like you don't have to be like, oh, I'm burning X amount of calories, so let me do that. That again is toxic and is not helping with your mental, you know, well-being.
Yeah.
It's more of getting out of, you know, a rut, or my body deserves movement, or my body deserves strength, or my body deserves to be taken care of.
Yeah.
It's that feeling. But you lift heavy, for example. And like, I know a lot of people relate to this. Like, you know, you lift heavy and you just feel so empowered after.
Yeah.
It's because of whatever you've released.
Yeah. No, I was just pointing out, my brain was stuck there when you said it, that after that 5K run, right?
Yeah.
How you feel, that feeling is just so precious. And that is what wants you to, you know, come back the next day and do a run again.
Absolutely. It is that. Like, I actually have just been running for a year. It's not even been that long. Like I got into proper racing. And I think what got me hooked onto it is the feeling after.
Yeah.
Like it's the serotonin, endorphins, like
Yeah.
testosterone for the guys, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of accomplishment, and it's the sweat coming out that just
Yeah.
makes you feel so good. Like it makes you just feel lighter, happier. You feel like you've accomplished something also.
Yeah.
And which is why I say it's not for your aesthetic purposes, right?
Yeah.
Running is not necessarily getting you anything aesthetically, because whatever said and done, it'll help you lose weight, sure, because it's cardio. But say someone who lifts a lot, it's also burning down your muscle mass.
Yeah.
But it's just the feeling after
yeah.
that you want to do it again, because you end your run feeling so happy and accomplished that, oh my god, today I did this.
Yeah.
And then you want to come back tomorrow saying, maybe I can push and do a little more.
Yeah.
So it's very goal oriented and performance oriented and your capabilities oriented. And also you're challenging yourself in a very different way, right? What happens is you've done this thing once, then you want to do it again, and you want to do it better, and you want to do even more. So anything that fitness related becomes a lot of work on yourself, by yourself, just to see your own accomplishments. And because you're doing it quote unquote solo only, like of course friends are with you, you have partners to go to the gym with, you have people you run with, but it's your body doing it and you're challenging yourself, right? So that's the link up between pushing yourself to do something, again and better, and then making it part of your routine.
Yeah. So we talked about two age groups, right? One is the parent age group, then coming to the Gen Z people, I would say the newer generation that is coming up, right? Why do you think they struggle with, keeping up with fitness and with health? Why is that so?
I think a couple of things, okay? Number one is Gen Z especially has a lot of information overload. Infinite advice online.
Yeah.
Through social media, through Quora, whatever. You have n number of places you can get.
GPT.
Right? So because you have so much information to absorb, it also just creates like an analysis paralysis.
Okay.
You don't know what to listen to, how to take it forward, how to implement it into your own lifestyle. And then you actually don't end up following one approach for too long.
Yeah.
Which is why you see the thing of trends. Like one thing will pick up and then it'll be buzzing.
Like keto was something that came up thoda pehle.
Keto has its phases. People will do it, then be like, it's shit, stop it, not sustainable. Same thing happened with like pickle paddle. Like honestly, dude, it was a trend. Like every second person was only playing pickle paddle. Now people are still playing, but it's not as talked about because of people who, like OG people who are actually playing it as a sport to compete are still playing. But the people who are doing it socially, it's died down. Right? So I think that information, just like having too much of it, is one reason they can't, stay consistent. Second, I think, is that Gen Z wants things fingertip speed, like instant gratification, that I saw this, even I want to lose weight in 10 days. And you don't realize that that's just how X person has perceived it on social media or perceived their business, or it's a marketing gimmick, whatever it is. But that social media that way is just conditioned their brains to believe that ye to bahut jaldi ho jayega. So you don't have the patience to wait for the results, and B, you don't have that actual hard work and grit required, because what you've seen in front of your eyes has made it look so easy and quick. No one is showing you the day-to-day behind. Like very few people are, say, vlogging everyday progress. But that's not what you're seeing every day. What you're seeing every day, you open and you're swiping through reels, it's a very before and after transition. What happened in that before and after? There were ups and downs. No one's transition is very smooth sailing, right? Phases hote hain. It takes years to have that transformation and sustain it. A lot of people transform, but then you also relapse. But that instant gratification is also why you aren't consistent, because you might start it, but then you'll also give up with it, right? And then the third thing, I think, with Gen Z is they just focus on aesthetics. It's your target is, I want to look this certain way. And again, I don't want to be dissing on social media, right? Because like, of course, it's also helpful. We're doing this. It's also going up on social media at the end of the day. It's also on how a person individually perceives social media. Like, is it helpful? Is it harmful? But the aesthetic goals are also coming from what you've seen. You haven't seen necessarily everyone's trajectory to get there, right? Again, a lot of people I've seen are doing Pilates. They start for the cool wow factor of that it looks like the new upbeat chic thing to do it. Actually, it's one of the hardest things to do. Like, Pilates kills you. It requires a lot of core strength. Sorry. I still struggle with it. So like, say me wanting to do Pilates is because I actually want to be good at it and work on core strength and work on mobility. Those are my two goals, right? But a lot of people do it because it looks very fancy. It's a very like, Instagrammable thing. So because you're working on aesthetics, you're not focusing on, okay, how are you feeling energy wise? How are you progressing at the gym? Are you being able to lift more? Are you being able to run more? Are you sleeping better? Again, direct correlation with your exercise and your sleeping habits. All of that is out of the window. It's just, am I looking great? Like, doesn't match.
Do you also think the fitness, like pure industry ka, like the image is screwed? Because what we see is, pehle hamare liye fitness kya tha? It was Bollywood, right? Bollywood mein we'll see jacked people and we'll see all these size 0 aa gaya tha. And now it's social media, right? Correct. Everyone is having 6 packs, ripped, right? So is that definition flawed according to you of fitness? Those standards?
Honestly, I would say it was flawed. Again, till like you and I type generation was growing up, that was what we looked up to. Like, not looked up to, but that is what we saw. Right? Bollywood was size 0 skinny jeans and all the actors ripped as hell. But I think also now there's a lot of good information people are putting out there, like creators, coaches, everything. There's some solid ones actually bringing out normalcy, like, bringing out just talking about people losing their periods, talking about body dysmorphia, talking about what healthy eating looks like, talking about sustainability when it comes to workouts, your recovery, importance of sleeping, importance of not, overdoing your exercising, talking about extreme diets, like going on the entire 1,000 calorie, 800 calorie diets. So no, I would say it was a thing, but not anymore if you're smart enough not to listen to that, because I think there's enough information out there that gives you genuine, correct guidance on what is fitness and how can you navigate through all that chaos to find fitness for you, what works for you and what's sustainable.
Okay. And how do you think you creating content has helped you, and also the value that you're giving, right? Because I think in the starting only you mentioned that you got the right education, right?
Yeah.
So do you consciously try to put that education out there? Because I feel a lot of people gatekeep it also. कि मैं ये नहीं बताऊंगा, I'll just tell those 3 hooks जो मेरे को पता है कि ये reel पे काम करेगा, and then not give the exact value. So what is your relation with content in that sense?
So I would categorize that as 2 different people, right? One set are content creators or influencers, and one set are coaches. And I would just put myself in the coaches category, because for me, of course, it is all about giving information. Yes, I might use a hook for it to meet or like for it to reach more people, but every single reel or content piece of mine will explain what I'm talking about in depth.
Okay.
Because like I said, for me, there was lack of education. So I want to give that education, and I want to give it in the most simple and realistic way. Realistic in the sense that it'll fit into your lifestyle, and you can do it for the long haul, which makes it sustainable. So the hook, I think, just helps now, because with Instagram and social media evolving every bloody second at this point, algorithms changing, you have to be on top of it to be able to show yourself out to more people, like be out there, but not at the rate of not giving good information every single time. And the other people, I would say, doing, just hooks or fancy reels, they're influencers, they're not coaches. And I think what does happen is a lot of these influencers are trying to be coaches, which is something that does annoy me seeing that happen, because I feel like let coaches do their shit because they're good at it, and you are very good at influencing.
Yeah.
Like you're very good at the content you're creating. You've put out a great video. Definitely you've monetized that. Keep doing what you're doing. Like stop overstepping what you don't know. Like just because you've put out content on 5 tips of XYZ or 5 workouts doesn't mean you're a coach.
Yeah.
You know, so stick to what you're good at and take that to one step ahead, but let a coach do their work.
What they do. Yeah, okay. So thank you so much, Arja, for doing this. And I really like the education that you gave me. And also we could have, dive deeper into certain points that I think now. And maybe we can have another episode on having a certain topic on a diet or just for the fitness with the comments that we get. So if you're here, thank you so much for watching this. Follow Arja. She's available at Fit with Abi.
Yes.
That's the handle. The handle is also in the description. And if you're here from Arja's community, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching the Not Knowing Podcast.